So when our parliamentary correspondent Ione Wells saw the Welsh Secretary Simon Hart, she asked him whether he was prepared to bypass the Welsh Government altogether to get the road built.
I don't want that to be necessary. There are ways in which I suspect we probably could. It would be complicated, controversial, but we would much prefer Welsh Government to, if you like, come to the table, look at this as a collaborative project and say, yeah, we accept the arguments for this, we accept the economic need, let's see how we can fund it. But until we can get to that point, I'm afraid there is, not just a blockage at Bringlas, there's a blockage in Cardiff as well. You
say you'd prefer to get them on board, but if that wasn't possible, you would essentially be able to bypass them.
We will never, you know what we're like, we never rule anything in or rule anything out. The easiest way of getting this done, if we really want this done quickly, it will require a change of administration in Cardiff, because if we had a different administration in Cardiff, this thing would be done quickly, painlessly and promptly.
So what's the backup plan if you don't next year in order to push ahead with the M4 Relief Road?
Well, the UK Internal Markets Bill, that rather dull-sounding piece of legislation you referred to, does provide for UK Gov to spend on infrastructure in Wales. That's an option. As I say, it's one which is there. It's there for good reasons. It's not there to try and put Welsh Government in a difficult position. It's there to try and enhance what we all want to do, which is job creation and investment into Wales.
And how are these projects going to be funded? Because say the UK government does turn around and say, OK, we want to spend £1.5 billion building this road. Is that going to come out of the budget which the Treasury do give to the Welsh Government?
There are three potential funding routes at the moment. There's doing something around the Barnett formula, which we've already ruled out, because that might have the effect of eating into money which is already earmarked for other things. Then there's actually new money. The Treasury simply saying, actually, we're going to make this vast sum of money available for particular projects and enabling us to do it that way. Or there is this thing called the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is the benefit that the UK will get from not having to pass large sums of money to the European Union with effect from early next year, and how that is fairly spread in the areas of the UK, and Wales in particular, which most needs it. And so we've ruled out one. Probably there isn't a lot of spare money knocking around at the moment for two. Does that mean the Shared Prosperity Fund could be a source? It's one option. But what this enables, whether it's about money now, what it does enable us to do is to make sure that when these big ticket ideas come along, that it's going to be much easier for us to be able to work with local authorities or work with local government in order to deliver them.
On the Shared Prosperity Fund, which you've mentioned would likely be the funding source for things
Possibly, rather likely, I think. Yeah.
Possibly the funding source for the M4 Relief Road. Last week, a cross-party group of MPs, including some of your own MPs, said the UK government had made negligible progress in their plans to replace hundreds of millions of pounds per year for Wales of EU funding. Why is that the case?
It's £660 million, so it is a significant sum of money. And so I'm very conscious of the fact that it makes a big difference to Wales. Progress has been slow. I won't sit here and deny that. COVID has played its part in just meaning that we haven't been able to get ahead of that as fast as possible. However, the timetable that we said we would stick to is still in place. So the whole thing hasn't slipped backwards. We're talking about next financial year.
But some of the businesses, the charities, the organisations that rely on this funding to design programmes, some of the programmes that they are designing for Wales to benefit people in Wales take years to develop. Can you understand that concern that
Absolutely.
With months to go, they don't have that detail, they don't know, and this current cycle of EU funding comes to an end?
But they're not being cut off. There's going to be no cut-off point by which stage one source of funding ends and the other one hasn't begun. If that is a concern, I think we can allay it. So
you can guarantee there's not going to be a cliff edge to this funding, which is a concern that this cross-party group of MPs raised just last week?
Yeah, I think I can offer that guarantee. We're, as I say, pressing every button to make sure that this transition is as seamless as possible.
Can you guarantee that, for example, your own constituents in West Wales, that they and others in the valleys, for example, who have received more funding per head will continue to? They won't be, this money won't be spent on UK government interests?
If jobs, livelihoods, prosperity, support are the driving influences for this, then of course, what I don't want to see is large chunks of money being diverted into bizarre sort of schemes which nobody can quite understand and which don't necessarily translate into jobs and prosperity. One of the reasons 55% of people in Wales voted to leave the EU was because they didn't think the money was being spent properly.
But one of
This enables us to spend it properly in the places that need it the most. And the answers don't all lie in Cardiff, and they don't all lie in Westminster either. They actually lie in the 22 local authorities who are responsible day to day for some of these issues. I want them to be much more closely involved in this. I want charities, I want the community to be more involved. At the moment, it's a closed shop. It's been the EU, would you believe, or Cardiff. Now it's actually going to be much closer to home. So the decision-making is going to be much closer to home. And that should, I hope, deliver the money to the places that need it the most.
Now, in response to Mr Hart's comments on the M4, the Welsh Government said it is a matter for it to decide if the road should be built, not the UK.